Hello and welcome. We're live once again. And
And
we are here with the lovely Alex. And I think we've just got a little bit of feedback there, but that's okay. You may have been catching up on these interviews, and I've been interviewing amazing people that I know. And Alex is our regular amazing person that comes onto the show. She knows so much about astrology and the planets, and every time we talk, of course, there's so many more questions that come up, and there's so many topics. So we have to keep getting her back on to get all of her wisdom. So welcome, Alex. Welcome back.
thank you. Thank you. I always love answering questions. It's a lot of fun for me getting to talk about astrology. So I'm always happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Alex, because we have had, since your interviews, we've had questions that have come in, and so I thought it'd be really good if we could take some time to answer some of those questions. And it's really interesting because we have covered some of these topics before, but maybe we've covered them in a shorter amount of time because we've been talking about other things. And so I feel really good because we're going to get to delve in to some of these questions right now. So I'm going to start, and I'm just going to read out the questions, the first one, and let's delve into it. Now, this question is: how is astrology used in the mystery school tradition, such as in practical magic, versus being at the mercy of the stars? Meaning, how can we harness it versus be victims to it, which is often the vibe in the New Age astrology? Now, we have kind of covered this in short before, so I'm really happy this question came in because we can delve in. Alex, could you give us some information about that?
Yeah, I really like that statement about being victims to it, and how that's so tied into New Age astrology. Years ago, actually, this woman was in California, and so she was a Taurus, and I remember I was pointing something out to her. She had this negative vibe about men, and I was like, you're being really stubborn about that. And she looks at me, and this was a woman who studied astrology, by the way, but New Age astrology. And she said, well, I'm a Taurus, so I'm supposed to be stubborn. And I was in utter shock because now, first of all, okay, yes, let's take a step back here. I have a Gemini nature. So, I generally just want to be happy, right? Same with you, Davina Kate. I know how it goes. But that statement of I'm supposed to be, and how using her astrological sign as an excuse to perpetuate her own misery, that didn't sit well with me. And so I said, okay, well, you can go on being stubborn, or you can shift your thinking and be happy. Right. And I don't think that ever really, made its way down through the depths and into the surface. But I'll never forget that interaction. I'm supposed to be stubborn. And it's like, well, no, not necessarily. And so one of the things that New Age astrology does is it actually uses astrology as a justification for lower forms of behavior. And that's something that I actually don't agree with, because when we look at astrology, where does it come from? Right? We have to crank our necks up. We have to look higher, right? And so the origination of these forces is holy and divine. It is not base. It is not stubborn. It is not negative. In the universe, the astrological energies are actually all positive. And then we reach up and we grab them. And what happens is we try to use those forces. And depending on the clarity of our being, that's how they come out. And so if we are trying to run those forces through a dirty lens, then that's when we have the negative manifestations of things. Right? And so when someone anchors onto Leo energy and they try to run it through a dirty lens, then they get pride and conceit. Right? When a Pisces tries to run that energy through a dirty lens, then they get hyper emotionality and victimhood. Right? You know, when here, I'll talk about myself. When a Gemini tries to run that energy through a dirty lens, right? You get superficiality, lack of decision, indecisiveness, right? And so it's not so much about the astrology. It's about the lens we're running it through, right? And so I really love the question, because astrology is not to blame for who you are and how you behave, right? Like I said, it's the lens. And so what we have to embark upon is actually the work of cleaning the lens. And the beautiful thing about astrology is that it can actually point out where that lens is dirty. Right? And furthermore, astrology is one of the 4 Hermetic sciences, or 4 Hermetic arts, I should say. Right? So you have astrology, alchemy, Kabbalah, and ritual magic. And the purpose of these Hermetic arts is to actually return to source, to return to the godliness, to your holy divine origin, right? And that's what astrology was always meant to do. It was meant to reveal the true nature of the soul, and to illustrate to you where that lens is dirty compared to where it should be clear. So that you have a better understanding of who you truly are.
I love that. I love that. And obviously we study in the mystery school, and we often talk about, the art and the science, and these being hidden sciences. And then we bring the art in, and this creates the magic. And I love that again, we're using astrology to help us understand who we truly are, to know ourselves, and see what is not truly us.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore we're using it to be greater, rather than using it to be the victim, and this is just the way it is. And I think this is where a lot of people tend to struggle when they join the path, is that we often in the new age system, I found certainly it was very much of let's make everybody feel okay and feel good, and if there's anything that makes you feel bad, then it's you don't go there, and of course you never grow. And then I came to the mystery school path, and I started using these tools, and I was seeing myself, and yes, it's painful at times. Yes, it can feel like you're stretching and expanding, but that's the whole point. Because as you say, we're looking up. We want to be greater, So in terms of astrology, we in the Hermetic form, in the mystery school, how does that differ? I know we've talked a little bit about this before. But...
Well, if I go back to this comparison of cleaning the lens, right? This is what the path of initiation does. So what many people don't understand is that there's an actual astrological process behind the path of initiation itself, and at every stage there are different astrological forces at play, and each of them is doing their piece of the work. Some of them are clearing, right? Some of them are taking the Windex and spraying the lens and wiping it, right? Others are polishing. Others are making sure that the angle of the lens is smooth so that the light can be diffused in the proper way, right? And so as we undergo that process of initiation, what happens is the sludge and the dust and the film that accumulate on the lens of our being start to become cleared away. And yes, of course, the path of initiation itself does it, but also as part of the path. I mean, Davina, Kate, you've been on this path for a number of years. There's a lot of self-work that's involved too. Like the phrase being a victim to astrology. Well, if you don't want to be a victim to anything, and it doesn't matter, astrology or life circumstances, you don't want to be a victim to COVID, you don't want to be a victim to a relationship, to whatever. If you don't want to be a victim, there's self-work that's involved, right? And this is where using ritual magic comes into play. This is where receiving healings comes into play. This is where receiving higher knowledge comes into play, because part of what distorts the lens is the knowledge that we think that we hold. Every one of us becomes set in our ways, especially as we get older. And so as we receive divine teachings, as we heal the emotionally damaged aspects of ourselves, as we embark upon that light of initiation and increase in our light, all of that is what clears the lens. And all of that actually provides the stage for who you really are and for the astrological forces that you are holding and serving as a channel for to show forth in the most positive of ways.
So that's really interesting. So, so without the initiation, we would not be able to experience that process, in particular to do with astrology. So somebody could have studied astrology in books or in theory for all of their life, yet if they don't receive the physical initiation, they never get to experience what that hidden magic that it holds.
Absolutely. Astrology is not just in here. So when we look up, we see those stars, we see those constellations, we see them as light. That means that there is energy to it, right? And in many traditions for thousands of years, part of ritual magic was summoning those astrological forces, right? I mean, we look at Ptolemy, we look at Cornelius Agrippa, right? Why can't I? Paracelsus, all of these magicians, and yes, they were all magicians, regularly called upon the forces of the stars. Agrippa probably being the most prolific writer about it. But, even if you look at Wicca, as much as it is a shamanic magic, there are astrological aspects to it as well. Right? As you the journey through the wheel of the year, there is a strong correlation between that and the magic of astrology, right? Because astrology is about some of the bigger cycles and seasons, and Wicca takes a look at what's happening down here on Earth, and so from that perspective, if we're not harnessing the energy of astrology, if we don't have access to the highest, I guess you could say the highest vibrations of these forces, then what we get to experience from it is so minimal and so limited and confined to this. And we all know this gets us in trouble.
Yes, it does. It does. So this is interesting. So at some point in history, obviously, this has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and we know that in the mystery school, that they have kept this magic alive, this magic of initiation and astrology, using astrology, etc. And at some point in history, these bits of information were taken out of the path, and kind of used on their own. So even though, you know, people might have, you know, have a really close connection with astrology and the planets and what have you, what we're saying is that when they are initiated into a true mystery school, it is going to blow their mind.
Absolutely. And whatever they will have experienced up until that point, they will have the chance to experience more. Right? Oftentimes people start out, oh, I love the moon, and then they receive initiation, and then they go to the full moon ceremonies, and then they get the chance to experience what the moon really feels like. Right? Before initiation, some people know, you know what, things go a little haywire when Mercury's retrograde. You know, I know I'm a little bit scattered and that kind of thing. Right? And then they receive the initiation, and they start to notice that their response is not the same anymore, because they have access to the higher light, to the higher qualities. You know, are there still things that maybe they need to clean up? Yeah, absolutely. Whose mind is perfect and who's perfect at communicating? Nobody. Haven't met anybody yet, right? You know, and like I said, retrograde planets are always our teachers, and it's quiz time. But it offers us the chance to live with astrology differently, and to receive the highest teachings, the highest clearing, the highest healing, and the strongest relationship with the stars and planets. Because we have a relationship with them. And if we don't embrace it, you know what I mean? It's just like any relationship. If you don't embrace the relationship, you don't get much out of it.
I love this. I love this because I know I speak to a lot of people and they say, you know, oh, you know, I, you know, follow the, you know, Mercury retrograde, and I do this and I do that and I do that. But I do notice this common theme that it seems to be ruling them rather than them receiving it as a higher teaching and helping them to expand and explore. And it seems to me from what we're saying is that their missing link is that initiation. You know, it's that's the key, because it's a physical initiation, to be clear, because some people say, oh yes, well I've been initiated, you know, in my meditation or whatever, but this is a physical thing that we're talking about, even though we're communicating with the planets.
Yeah, for sure. And can I tell you a little secret?
Please.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. We are actually meant to be directing these forces, not to be governed by them. And the key to the path of initiation is that it actually reverses that process, where we initially start out at the whim and mercy of everything happening in our environment. And as we step onto the path of initiation, we gain in that energetic awareness. We increase our ability to understand and connect to the universal forces, right? And then we also grow, you know, closer and closer into the higher self. And as we do that, that actually provides the ability for us to start commanding these forces eventually. And that's really what we're aiming for. That is part of the highest potential of human beings. And that's what the path of initiation is all about, is to be the source, as opposed to the recipient who is entirely at mercy to the whims of one's environment.
Do you know, I just got like this little, you know, picture in my head of Merlin standing there with the stars and the planets and him commanding everything. You know, it's like boom, 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 like a magician is like pulling all of these sources in and creating. And my goodness, it's so powerful, rather than, you know, that's us as a divine being. You know, like you're saying, when we're not here just to be, oh, I'm going to be pushed here, I'm going to be pushed there, oh, I can't do this because of this is in my star sign or whatever. It's like, no, you know, we are that magician. I've got Merlin statue over there. It feels like he's calling. But, you know, it's that kind of, oh my goodness, it fills me with like just such hope, that there's so much magic within us and connecting with these stars, and we have access to that through, this, the path of initiation, the mystery school path. I mean, how lucky are we? I mean, wow.
Yeah, for sure. And all the tools that actually support us in that process, and all the higher knowledge that supports us in that process, because that's important too. How many of us have come onto the path of initiation with dogma that has not served us, and that dogma clouds our lens, right? And so this is part of why I love astrology so much, is it really illustrates what we are capable of when we continue upon that path of initiation, and when we really do the work. Like, could you actually imagine being able to flow these energies, really and truly? And you know what, some of us already have an innate connection with some of them, and some of them we do flow, but we need all of them. If we are going to be creators, we need all of them. You can't be a cook in the kitchen with just a spatula.
Well, I can vouch for that, because I'm a rubbish cook and I probably use one item, and that's why. So I can vouch for that. I love that analogy. Yes, I hear you. I love that. Aleks, okay, I know we've got another. Let me jump to the next question, if I can find, because I know we're running out of time. We might have to do another question and answer. But what's the astrology training in the lineage, if there is any? What are some reliable sources to learn from out there if I wish to pursue astrology training?
Okay, so in terms of the mystery school, when it comes to astrology, currently there are 3 classes available. So 2 of them are open to anyone at any level, including the public. So there's astrology in the 7 sacred planets, and this is the introduction to astrology. And in that class, we go over the true nature of the planets and of the zodiac signs. And the reason I do this is, and the reason that this class is taught, and so if you ever see it on the schedule, I'm going to be honest with you, jump on it, because you may not see it very often, right? But the reason I teach this class is because, truthfully, there aren't really any good books out there that you can start with. Now, Alice Bailey is great, but if you have no prior astrological knowledge, Alice Bailey will just confuse you. And so this is why astrology in the 7 sacred planets is something I highly recommend. And then to go alongside of that, there's also astrology in the 9 trials of the ego. And in this class, we talk about the particular relationship of astrology with the path of initiation, and also really we kind of embark on that work of clearing the lens. And we visit a teaching called the 9 trials of the ego, which illustrates and I guess you could say sheds light, on your astrological nature, but also what's holding you back. One of the teachings in the 9 trials of the ego is that every one of us has one primary trial, and it's the trial that feeds all the rest. And so part of the work that we do in that class is to actually embark upon figuring out which one it is, or to at least get a better sense, because illusion can always come into play. Right? And then lastly, to anyone who is a life activation practitioner, there is the Hermetic Astrology class. And this is another one that I am going to tell you, if you see it on the schedule, you better jump on it. And the Hermetic Astrology class, it specifically is mystery school lineage. And it goes into more of the cosmic relationship that we have with the astrological forces. And in it, we look at Sumerian teachings of astrology that also go hand in hand with deeper teachings on basically Hermetics. right? And the Hermetic ray, because we are a Hermetic tradition. And so the Hermetic astrology class, I mean, there you go, right? And so understanding the connection between astrology and the Hermetic rays and how that applies to us. And also in that class, you actually receive the handing down for 2 sessions that you can do. You learn how to do the Hermetic rebalancing modality. And Founder Goodney called it the highest rebalancing modality that we have in our lineage. And so it is incredibly clearing, actually. And then also, you learn how to do the cosmological reading. And it's really cool because in that Hermetic astrology class, you learn how to connect with a being called the Chronos, who is the master of time and space. And so for those who learn how to do the cosmological reading, you learn how to embark upon that work of working with the Chronos to actually serve people using what we call cosmology, which is a little bit different than astrology, but you know, regardless, you'll love it. And it is an amazing class.
Now, did I see that this is on the schedule somewhere in the world soon?
Yes, so it is happening in Minneapolis, actually, in the Modern Mystery School International programs.
Sorry for people in the UK and Europe, because I don't think we can get into the States yet, but we are hopeful that this, you know, that we will, things might change. But I did remember seeing it on the schedule. So if anybody is going to Minneapolis, then, you know, you can take this class, which is fantastic news. Yeah. Are you full already?
You know what? I don't know.
I know most of the classes are full, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm promoting it and telling everybody, and they're probably going to be really, you know, oh no, we can't do it because it's full. Oh my goodness.
Well, you know what? If you want to do it, it never hurts to ask.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, hopefully we can have you, you know, come to do these classes over here in the UK and EU, and you know,
love it.
I know the person that asked the question, I don't think she'll mind me mentioning her name, Jin. She's on now, and she said, yes, she is on it. So she's in your class. So that's excellent news. So that's really great news.
I'm going to try and sneak to the US.
I know. We need to do a few little calling upon some magic, and hopefully we'll get there. So we're running out of time, but we are going to have you back on soon with more questions. And I did have more questions, and there was a person that emailed me with a whole load of questions. And I have to admit, for some reason, it's disappeared out of my inbox. So if you are that person, I think I know who it is, so I'll email you. But if you are that person and you are watching, can you just message me again, and then we can do your questions next go, because we ran out of time. So thank you so much for that amazing information. And hopefully all of the astrologer lovers out there, you know, will jump on being, you know, get initiated and have a whole new experience and a whole new, you know, a whole new level of magic to work with. So wouldn't that be amazing?
Would be. It would be to really return mainstream astrology back to its roots. That would be amazing.
Wouldn't it? Okay, this is our mission. This is it. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again very soon.